So, welcome to another episode of the ROI
Yeah.
Mindset Podcast. I am Relo Tavares, your host, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jonah Stark. He's an actor, a local service business owner, and also an author. So, quite surprising. How can you handle all these three things?
Yeah, so I would clarify, I have done acting. I will try to do acting again in the future, but for now I focus on the book and the service business. And it's discipline, I would say, is the number one thing. I do have structured times when I'll work on each. And, I also have a son and a wife, so I have to be very considerate with when I'm working on which. So
I forgot to
yeah,
mention,
it's
father.
difficult. The father, I think, is the busiest part for the most part.
And a husband, right?
Yes, for sure.
That's fantastic because
yeah.
I imagine writing a book is not a simple task.
No, it took a lot of time and a lot of revision too. I worked on it for about 2 years before I actually had it. And that was in the midst of growing my business at the same time. So it was structured nightly. I would work on it for about 2 hours a night while my wife was at work. That was when my son would go to bed. I would wait for my wife to get home, and then I would work on that as a way to get over my video game addiction, actually. That's why I started it. So, yeah.
Got it. So let's dive deep into the very first step of your journey, right? So what drew you into acting in the first place?
Yeah, I actually, funny enough, I originally wanted to do modeling,
right?
But I'm 5'10", so the agent was like, hey, you can't really do modeling at this height, but you could try doing acting. So then I was like, oh, sure. And, I started out as a natural at it by any stretch. Just over time, I took classes. I gradually got a little bit better. And then by the end, I actually played a role with Catherine Zeta-Jones. And I played her son in a movie. So that was like the claim to fame. The claim to fame I had. My parents were very excited by that one. So that was my acting journey. And just over time, I enjoyed growing the skill set of, I would say, sales and acting.
Yeah, does it help you? Would it be my second question? Your acting skills, how does it help you, for example, to close a deal, hiring, or leadership, for example?
I think all three of those are valid. I think closing deals, I'm very good at understanding what clients are saying and what they're expressing. Just because in acting, it's a lot of reading, facial expressions. They're very micro, is what you're looking at. So I can usually tell what a client's thinking. I can tell when to pull back, when to push, if that makes sense, and just when it's going to happen or when it's not going to happen. I think those tells you can understand a bit better with acting. And then for leadership, I would say my number one skill as a leader is I'm very good under pressure. And a lot of that comes from my background. Sometimes I am actually feeling stressed, but I don't show it. Mm-hmm. So that's very beneficial because in a moment of crisis on a job site, when people are panicking, when the boss is very calm and collected and not throwing fingers, not saying, hey, why did you do this? We just actually solve the problem. That goes a long way. And that helps with painter retention and also with client satisfaction.
Impressive. So I think communication also is a key, right?
For sure.
So as an actor, you have this ability to communicate well, understand body language.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Yeah. And I think it really helps you out as a
It
entrepreneur.
does. Yeah, it definitely does. Even a very, very minor interesting note about acting is because, films are usually US based, not Canada based. And in Canada, we have a tendency to accentuate the end of our sentence. So, for example, a lot of our sentences will end like this. And it's you raise the last note of your sentence. And when you're doing a sale, that makes you feel like you're questioning, like you aren't as confident. So one thing with this, you just saw, when I said confident, it raised up there. So when you're talking, a lot of times you almost want to lower the last note of your sentence, and then it sounds more confident.
Yeah.
So it's a minor thing, but those
do you know what?
change.
Yeah. I just remember, have you ever heard about the movie The Wolf of Wall Street?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So one of his sales techniques was pretty much like that. The cold call was basically not emphasizing too much his tone, right?
Yeah.
Like a talk as you're talking to your best friend.
Yes,
so people don't understand that you are trying to sell something. Mm-hmm. And it aligns to what you just said because intonation is key during the sales process, right?
Yeah, I think so. It just makes you sound like you're confident and like you've already closed the sale. That's the way I look at it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And you
agree.
aren't nervous. Like clients are always looking for a reason to book with you, but also like red flags not to book with you. So if you're like shaking, if obviously it happens from time to time where you're nervous, but if I'm constantly raising each sentence, if I'm constantly using the same phrase over and over, then the client's going to get, you know, a little note of, hey, why is Jonah like this? Like, is Jonah
Yeah.
legit? Right? So it
I
can,
agree with you.
yeah.
I agree with you. So, what was exciting about acting, and what was frustrating?
Yeah, I mean, exciting was, I can speak from experience. Like that one role paid me, you know, quite a bit of money. So it was really cool.
Okay.
Like getting that paycheck and you're like, oh my goodness, all this work for that. But I also wasn't, not to like be hard on myself, but I wasn't like the most talented actor in the world either. So with that same metric, like I didn't have that consistent paycheck. So you'd get these, I would assume it'd be similar to gambling in a way where, you know, you do put in, well, maybe not, but I put in a lot of effort consistently, but then the return is very outsized in one direction or the other. So I could have the best audition I've ever done in my life, but I wasn't the right look for that role, so I wouldn't get it. Then I could have a mediocre audition, but I was perfect for the role, and I would get it. So it was that was one thing that was a bit frustrating. Yeah.
So many variables, I would say, right? And is a kind of profession, from my perspective. You please let me know if I'm wrong. That it doesn't matter how much efforts you add into the profession.
For sure.
So everything has to be aligned for you. For sure, you need to be prepared.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? You need to be doing a great job. However, if there is no opportunity for you, and that's a variable that you don't control, you don't get the role that you wanna.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel that's the main problem. It's like a soccer players.
Yeah,
There's
for sure.
so many super talented soccer players.
Yes. Yeah.
However, if they don't find somewhere to play, or if they don't find like the right manager, if everything is not like a 100% aligned, even though they have the talent, they don't find the opportunity.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. No, it's very true. There's I forget what the specific book is. It's maybe Black Elephant, Black Sheep, something like that. I forget what it's called. Malcolm Gladwell.
I think I heard about that.
Yes, yeah.
So many people are commenting about this book.
Yeah, no, I've read it a long time ago. I didn't remember the name, but he talks about that where like one of the biggest determinations in success of like an NHL athlete, for instance, is when they were born. Because someone who's born from like January to March is going to have a much better success rate in sports than someone born in October through December. And the reason being, when you're 20, it doesn't matter what month you were born. But when you're starting sports at like 3 or 4 years old,
they're going
to be literally like 25% more developed than someone else. So they're going to get more attention, more rink time. And obviously, you know, coaches try to give everyone equal.
Right.
But all things equal, like those players are going to be better and they're going to continue to be better. So you will get NHL players born in December, but a majority are born from January through March. So
Fantastic.
It's interesting. That's very interesting.
That's very interesting. Yeah. It's like it's something to consider, right? Because you're also an entrepreneur. When you understood that acting was no longer for you and you had to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I would say my first year of business, I didn't necessarily do the best in terms of profit in my first year, but what I did see is my efforts directly resulted in my profit. And at the time, you know, I needed to grow my skills, but I saw that opportunity to get better and see what other people in business were doing, especially with the service business. A lot of it is reputation based. A lot of it is inputs can be directly traced to outputs. So like I know if I put in an hour of door knocking, chances are on average, I would get one lead in that hour. And then that one lead would turn into this many quotes. Those quotes at my booking percentage turned into this much revenue, this much profit.
Sales
so it's
funnel.
Very trackable. Exactly. It was the most trackable funnel ever. Versus, like I said, with acting, who knows? If I had pursued, maybe I'd be worth $10 million right now. Maybe I'd be worth zero. I don't know. You know, I don't know. So it was very predictable and scalable. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And in the middle of the way, from what I could understand, you said you ended up like start writing your book 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what made you come with this idea? So I imagine that you ended up giving up as an actor, right?
Yeah.
Not giving up, but you let it there. I know
for sure.
You is still like potentially, you can act, you can you can perform.
Yes,
right?
I can. Yeah.
But in the middle of the way, you start writing your book and also being an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
How could you make it happen?
It sounds like kind of, stereotypical, but like I'd always kind of written as a hobby. Like on my own, I would write just random things, like random like fan fictions, random book ideas. And oftentimes I'd write something for like 10,000 words, let's say. Be like, oh, wait a second, this is like literally the show I watched on Netflix. I'm just like writing that show I watched. I'm like, okay, so this isn't an original idea. And then I really enjoyed this series by Brandon Sanderson called The Stormlight Archives. Just fantastic, epic fantasy. It's like an unbelievably good book series. And he has a writing lecture, and he's like a top class author. He's one of the most successful authors in the world. And he just has this free writing lecture series. And he had one in 2015, one in 2020. Then he did another one last year, which I watched while I was writing the book. So, and I was someone, I didn't do too well in like the typical school system, but I kind of had like a switch in my brain where I did like very well post-secondary because I became a bit more serious about my craft. And I liked reading, I liked studying. So I just like watched these lecture series and I started implementing it. And then eventually I'd always had the idea of like the Greek god battle royale. That was what it was called. That was like the concept title was GGBR, Greek god battle royale. Wow. And then I just was like working on it as I was watching these lectures and just gradually like morphing the book. And it transformed a lot during the book. I always had the same concept of like Zeus was going to die. And then there was going to be like a battle royale to determine the successor to the throne. But like the characters changed a lot. Like I took from like personal experiences for some of the characters. And essentially I chose like 12 archetypes for people that I've seen and just exaggerated them to like the divine scale. Because I'm like, for example, like I struggled a lot with like pride in my life. And I'm like, if my pride as a human was taken to like a demigod, like the closest thing to like a Greek god that you could get, how much worse would that be? How much harder would it be to admit that you're wrong if you're like literally divine compared to like what a human experiences. So I tried to like take those trends and just amplify them. So it was, I'm very passionate about the book, but it was a very cool experience. Yeah, it was very cool to like explore those traits and like make a story that is about succession and Greek gods, but it's more about like the characters and like, kind of showing human hypocrisy.
And why fantasy?
Yes, fantasy because it allowed me to make things more entertaining, I would say. Right. I did love, like, I've always loved fantasy. I'm probably like one of the biggest nerds you'll find. Like I love role-playing games. I love any type of fantasy like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, the basics, but also like the more obscure ones, like I was saying with like the Sanderson novels. I love those types of series. And I know how it can allow you to like read a story that normally you wouldn't read about. For example, like these human struggles, but just find like a different avenue and like understand it better because you aren't looking at it as though you're messing up. You're looking at a character messing up. And it's a bit abstract, but then that allows you to like get different messages that you otherwise wouldn't receive because you'd be like guarded. When you're watching this like epic fantasy about like demigods, fighting to the death, all of a sudden like you aren't really guarded against those concepts that hit you and you're like, oh wait, like this is actually relevant to my life. So
yeah, we ended up connecting with the character.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Somehow you ended up like taking all the character actions and you see yourself kind of there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
It's the classic, like everyone relates to one character in one show, right? You watch a show and you're like, oh, that character is like me. It's just typical. So
it's true. It's true.
Especially in fantasy.
And how was this experience for you? Because I imagine when you were acting, you would have received the story. And when you wrote a book, you ended up creating this story, right?
Yeah.
How was this experience for you? Being on the other side of the table.
Yeah, I think it was fun because obviously like anyone is going to be a critic of work. I don't like to be a critic. I don't try to be. But naturally when you read something, you're like, oh, I would have done this different. I would have done this different. And when I was writing the book, I wasn't writing it for commercial success because like full transparency, my painting business brings in enough income where I don't need a second income. So with the book, I was writing it for me, like for my story. And then I was able to like make choices that wouldn't be conventionally like viable. Like I couldn't normally write this if I was looking to get an agent. So I'd say, hey, there's no romance in the book. There's no this or that in the book. But it was like a true story of like what would actually happen in the situation. So it was very like fulfilling in that way, feeling like, hey, I'm just genuinely making a good story for me. Like not everyone's going to like it. A lot of people would hate this book based on some of the decisions.
Right.
But I can say like it was authentic to me. So it was really cool. Yeah.
The book name is Last Them God Standing.
Yeah.
Do you have the book here?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah.
So
And keep in mind, this was the original like proof copy cover. There is a new cover that is
I saw on
approved,
Amazon a beautiful cover. I saw that one in Amazon.
Yeah, this one was, so what I actually did was to print it, I was trying to figure out how to print it commercially. So I used Amazon because Amazon was the best cost to get it originally.
Got it.
And then I printed like a bunch of copies for myself and my friends. I paused the book listing and then I like did the final edits, re-uploaded it, and then have the official. The official version will now be available.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll know it's official because it's like a darker background.
Because I tried to buy on Amazon yesterday or today, and it wasn't available.
It was probably paused. Yeah, because it was in the process of revising.
Okay.
Yeah. So
got it.
But it was finished today. I actually did it before.
So can you show to this camera?
So, yeah. This is the Last Demigod, and then this is the synopsis. I'm sure we can post it after, but
I will make sure that you're gonna put
cool.
the Amazon link in this video description.
Okay.
So people can click there and buy it.
Sweet.
So how hard is to launch a book on Amazon?
On Amazon, it's extremely simple, I would say.
Yeah.
The hardest part was writing it and formatting it, but Amazon made it very convenient to sell it.
Is there any legal thing that I have to do before I launch this book on Amazon?
Yeah, you have to declare, like, there's certain declarations you have to make. Like, for example, you have to declare what was AI, what was not. Where is it legal to print this book? Like, are there likenesses to characters? Are any of the characters based on, like, true people? Like, there's the basic legal. But in this situation, for me, it was pretty straightforward. Like, I used AI for the cover, but the actual book was not AI. So I think, it's cool. Keep in mind, the new cover, I am going to pay for a proper cover. So
I would never say this is AI.
It's good. I chose it for that reason because I found I needed something to be able to print and like have it in my hand. I just quickly generated one, but it was pretty cool. Yeah. But the actual book itself was not AI, so I think that was the biggest take.
Yeah, I got super interested on this. Like I really love it, and I'm curious actually.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, that's not my type of book.
Yeah.
But when I read this, I found wow. So he thought a lot about this.
Yes.
I want to see what is the point of this book. You know, I'm intrigued. Like what's gonna happen with all the characters here that you mentioned. So I'm very excited to read your book.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear what you think.
By the way.
So thank you.
So I think it's magic, right? So sometimes we need, as entrepreneurs, to stop thinking too much about our business.
Yes.
That's what I noticed recently. And reading books have been helping me in such a good way.
Yeah, I think so.
Expands my mind, right?
For sure.
Especially books like that one that it's fantasy. You can create things in your mind.
For sure.
How important for you is to have time off from work?
I think it's very important. What I find funny is for my schedule, I'll start with my schedule so you understand the context. I work Monday through Saturday. On Monday through Friday, Monday, Tuesday, I work until 2. Then I watch my son. So I work about 6 hours Monday and Tuesday each. And then Wednesday through Friday are my like busy days. Those are where I'll work from like 6 until like 6 or 6 until 7. So those are my like loaded days where, I might work 10 to 12 hours, 13 hours, depending on the day, right? Depending on what's going on. And then Saturday, I always try to be home before my son wakes up. So I say, hey, like Manami, my wife, I'm going to work in the morning. I'm going to be home by 2 o'clock. So I always have Saturday afternoon off and I always have Sunday all day off. And I was like, I go to church. So that was my reason for Sunday. But regardless, I think you need a day off. Like you need a day off no matter what. Yeah, because what I found is my energy levels were so much better when I had that 1 or 2 days off. Those really frustrating weeks that we all have in business were easier to bear with because I knew there was an end in sight and my life is not just work. I think that's a very common trap that I know I fell into and a lot of entrepreneurs I know fall into. Is we work so hard that our life is business. All we can talk about is business. All we can think about is business. And part of that is just being an entrepreneur because you always have to be creating, you always have to be doing something. But taking time off helped a lot with that, and intentional time off. It's not just, hey, I'm home early from work today.
Scrolling on social media, for example.
For sure, yeah.
I agree.
You have to be intentional with it. So.
And how did ProWorks painting have changed your life?
Yeah, I think ProWorks was... So I actually, before I did ProWorks, I did like a student painting company. And that was very helpful because it trained me to be, I think, a bit more disciplined, like a bit more strict. And that directly correlated with me like succeeding in university. Because like I went from like failing high school essentially, like just never showing up to high school, just having no ambition whatsoever, to being top of my class in university for accounting.
Were you this guy failing on high school? Really?
Yes, I was. And I hate that because it's such a trope that business owners, but I also understand like the reason I failed in high school for the most part was because I was just had no like discipline. Like I'm not gonna like blame high school or anything. Like
okay,
but you know, it's one of those things. Yeah.
From what I know from you,
yes,
I think you're similar to me. High school for me was like I'm not doing what I supposedly should be doing.
Yes, I agree.
There is no point learning all these formulas, equations, that kind of stuff, because I was ready to start work.
Yes,
to start working, right? So, and I feel high school is an extension of the elementary school. I understand, but in a certain point, for some teenagers, it no longer makes sense. I want to start making money back in time.
Yes,
and I was ready for that. So I would like to learn public speaking. I would like to learn leadership. I would like to learn accounting. That kind of stuff. It would actually make me more interested in high school.
100%. Yeah.
Did you have the same feeling? So I think you didn't fail because our stories are kind of similar, because high school did not make any sense for me anymore.
Yeah, I think that character trait's common in entrepreneurs because we do something on our own. Like we want to do something constantly. Like I don't think you can be an entrepreneur otherwise. And I think, like you said, with high school, you're forced to follow a regimen at at the school's pace. And in some subjects, that was really difficult. Like science, I'm not gifted at science. You know, if you read this book, it's going to be very basic. There's no science mentions in there. But math, I was very good at math, right? Hence the accounting. So it was like math, I was always ahead, but then science, I was always behind. So it's like, you know, you just start to feel like unmotivated in high school. And
that's a word.
Dude. And like books, I loved books. In high school, I would read constantly. Like funny enough, in elementary, like I won the award for reading the most books.
Really?
Like I got like the Chronicle of Narnia. I don't know if you know that series.
Yes, of course.
Like my teacher just got me like the box set of that. It was so sick because like I read the most in the class. And then it's, you know, it's like those things. Like your passions are your passions, and what you're good at, you're good at. What you suck at, you kind of suck at.
Yeah,
you know? So,
and your motivation as well, right?
Yes.
So if you don't know why you're learning certain kind of like stuff, why are you gonna learn?
Yeah,
right?
That's very true.
That's the point. Mm-hmm. And then you were a very successful student in university, from what I could understand.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Look at that.
It was because I was doing what I wanted to learn, right?
And a very successful entrepreneur right now.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So we were talking about ProWorks painting. Yeah. So in terms of structure, support, how it changed your life as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so we're a franchise. So they help with a lot of the. I'm assuming this is what you're asking about, like ProWorks side, or just my business?
Your business, yeah.
Okay.
No, in general, actually, like how ProWorks painting supports your business and vice versa. So
I think ProWorks painting it supports my business. It's very systemized, and as you could probably gather from me doing well in accounting, I'm someone who likes systems. Like I like order. It just helps with what I do, and it also allows us to be flexible though. Like it has a basic structure that we can follow because it is painting. You know, how do we paint this? How do we go about doing estimates? How do we go about finding if a painter is good or bad? There's systems for that. The branding is like fantastic. So we get some pretty big projects because of ProWorks, I think, as the branding. But then on the personal side, if I want to focus more on sending out direct mail, like marketing flyers, or if I want to focus more on door-to-door, if I want to try this marketing avenue that ProWorks hasn't done before, the ownership is very cool in that way, where they'll say, yeah, that's awesome. Like, we'll support you. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it doesn't work. Like, keep me posted. So ProWorks as a franchise is very flexible in that way.
Lovely.
But they have the structure where they need the structure, but they aren't like tyrannical. You know, they aren't like, hey, you have to do this. They'll say, we're going to do this in these situations, but we aren't going to control like, you know, what type of van you get, which a lot of franchises do. Yeah. They say you have to have the branding, but you can choose the van. Like those sorts of things were very beneficial.
Got it. ProWorks. They're flexible, let's say.
They are. Yeah, they are flexible.
For people watching us right now,
Mm-hmm.
let's say I want to start my painting company.
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
I think it depends on what point of life you're in. I would say firsthand experience. I was with a company called Student Works Painting when I was in university. I thought that was fantastic. It trained me. Whether or not I went into business, I think it was just a genuinely good experience to learn to run a painting company in school. They were very supportive. Outside of school, I would probably work for someone first if you don't have that franchise support, because I think it would be important to actually learn how to paint and like do these things from a different company before you branched out on your own. And with painting, we're a business where capital is important long term, but it's not important short term. I think a huge mistake I'll see people make is they'll get the expensive machines, they'll get the expensive ladders, they'll get the expensive van off the bat, and there goes 60 grand. But I started my business with like 5 grand. Like I didn't have a lot of money when I started out, and I was able to like bootstrap. Like I was able to do the door to door. I was able to scale gradually at first, and then obviously quicker over time. But you're kind of forced to do these like small scaling efficiently, making sure that you have profit before you scale to a point where you bankrupt yourself, right? So that's what I would say personally is just either start with like a support system, like a student company, like a franchise if you want to do a franchise, or paint first and understand what you actually need versus what looks cool to have. So
that's a good advice.
Yeah.
Because you cannot wait for the perfect situation to start.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
This perfect scenario do not exist.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm glad to know that you started like a step by step.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see you are where you are right now. Like
for sure. Yeah.
So
and I'm not like, one thing I'd like to clarify, like I've been doing this 9 years and my revenue, like it's about the $1 million range. So I'm not some like uber success, I'm not the most successful painting contractor ever. But I know what's worked for me. And I think I did it in a pretty repeatable way where I'm sure there's people who've hit $1 million within a year. Like I took 9 years to hit that, but with that being said, if I was, I was genuinely afraid of risk when I was starting for the most part, actual financial risk. And I did it in a way where I was never exposed to significant liability. And I was able to now be at a point where I'm able to, have some disposable cash. Yeah.
It's fantastic. It means success. So what mistakes cost you money, especially at the beginning?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, chasing revenue, not profit was big. And I know that sounds like it contradicts what I just said, but not actually. Like I'd be really conscientious of like trying to book a job and thinking in my head, hey, if I give this client a further 10% discount, that'll allow me to book this work. But let's just say theoretically, like I think most trade businesses would target in like the 20 to 40% profit range for gross, not net. Let's say you were like at 20% profit, which is about what my gross was at that time, and then you give a 10% discount. Now your profit's 10%. Your profit just was cut in half. For a 10% discount to that client, your profit is now half. That can become a very easy habit to repeat without noticing that you're repeating it, because it just becomes easy to book the sale instead of actually getting better at sales, which is still something I struggle with. I'm not perfect at sales. I could still improve there. But instead of getting better in that skill set, it's very easy to give a discount to book a job, and those discounts add up pretty quick.
What you said is so nice because, okay, you cut off your profit.
Yeah.
Now you're going to work for the next, let's say 5 days for only 10%. Supposedly it should be 20%. And in the middle of the way, something happens.
Yes. Yeah.
So you take a big risk.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And if a small accident happens in the middle of the way, you lost the 10% left.
Yes,
and it's
exactly.
a typical stuff in home service businesses, right? Because let's say you ended up like breaking a client's pipe, right? I'm coming with a crazy example.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So your profit is over.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right?
So it's crazy. And you have to account for those things. Like even now, like I said, I've been in business 9 years. I've produced, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 jobs at this point. I don't know what the exact number is, but something like that, right? And we still have mistakes. Like we aren't perfect. Things happen. You fix them. But if I'm not considerate about my gross margin, my net profit will be negative. Like we have to be considerate about these things. So you just never know. Like you never know when you're going to have that one painter on that bad day run over a gas line or like do something really bad that's going to cost you like tens of thousands of dollars. You just don't know. So you have to be conservative.
100%.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
You know a lot about numbers, right? I
Yes.
like it
Yeah.
because you have this accounting vision about your business. So, what numbers do you watch every day?
Yeah, I think I watch what's trackable. I don't watch what's variable, or sorry, what can fluctuate by the day. But I will watch like how much effort I'm putting in. What's my approximate gross profit percentage? What's my labor percentage at? What's my paint percentage at? And if it is higher, like for example, last year our profit was significantly lower percentage wise than it would be in typical years. We did a lot of revenue, so I was fine. But if I had done like similar revenue to like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been, if that makes sense. And I know why my profit percentage was lower, but I always want to know why. Like I want to know, what am I doing? How can I improve this? Is it in my control? Is it outside of my control? Because like people do like bi-weekly meetings, quarterly meetings, yearly meetings.
Yeah.
I think that's like the stupidest thing in the world, because for me, if I was like meeting, like let's say I had to rely on my accountant to know what my profit percentage was. If I had to wait until December, like I would have been screwed. So I'm like, hey, why is my labor rate 45% higher than it should be? Or why is my labor rate 60% higher than it should be? Okay, if I catch that in April, I still have 8 months of the year to correct that, and it's still going to be higher, but at least I know what went wrong. If I wait until December, boom, like I have $0 for that year. It's like, yeah, so you have to be checking every day. And same with painters. It's like, if someone does something wrong, don't wait 2 weeks to do something. Like talk to them and be like, hey, just so you know, like, I want to make sure this isn't happening for the next 2 weeks until our payroll, right? Like just check on it right away.
Fantastic. What you're saying is be more proactive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Following and watching the most important KPIs.
Yeah.
Almost every day if it's possible, so
sure.
You can have a fully vision about what's going to happen at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You don't need to wait until the end of the year, right? So you keep
For
on
sure.
track of this number so you can take
have to.
action in the middle of the way.
For sure.
Right? I always play as a marketing agency that the only indicator that I watch every single day is the return on ad spend,
Yes.
right? To my clients.
For sure.
In fact, is the main indicator, because if my clients, they have positive return on ad spend, for every dollar they invest, they get X amount of dollars back.
For sure.
My company is okay. In fact, it is okay. But there are many other indicators that we need to consider.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the labor costs, for example, that I imagine for you is one of the main costs.
Yeah,
right?
Our labor is our biggest cost.
I imagine. So if something goes wrong, you need to understand why it's wrong.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So you ended up like breaking down all your main indicators to understand what's not matching the requirements, or what's not actually in the range that it supposedly should be.
Yeah. And at least like the key thing is, like last year what I found was I tracked it crew by crew, and at a certain point with some crews I tracked it painter by painter, like just for reference, because I wanted to see like
that deep.
Because I wanted to know what's going on, right? Because I had other stuff going on last year with like, I was trying to like, get into my family farm and like stuff like that. Like there's other things that were on my mind last year where it wasn't just the painting business. So I had to make sure like I wasn't letting that slide by. So I was really trying to be intentional about saying, hey, this painter just isn't making sense for my business. This painter is a rock star, but I'm just giving him the worst jobs. Like, hey, if I put this guy on an interior job, he's going to like fly through and do like the best job ever. If I put him on an exterior, he's just really slow with ladders. So is it actually my painter's issue, or is it my issue? And in some cases, it was an issue with scheduling. It was an issue with with which crew members he was with. Mm-hmm. In some situations, it was just, hey, this painter is not a good fit for our company, or hey, their attitude isn't good. And then also understanding, maybe this painter doesn't make me as much profit as other painters do, but I can rely on them. They're a fixer. They do, they get excellent feedback. Like, there's different factors you have to consider, but at least you aren't in the dark. Like, at least you know what you're looking at.
Oh yeah, you have numbers. Right?
Exactly.
So that is also always a good thing to have. So it helps you, support you to take a decision.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. I know you have a feeling, but if you have the numbers to prove your thoughts, it's even better.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
The same thing happens in marketing. So it's a thing I always repeat to my clients.
Yes. Yeah.
Murillo, this ad is going to work or not? Test it.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Put it out in the market.
Yeah.
And let's see which one performs better. I swear, I tested over like probably 10,000 ads in my entire life. And recording an ad wearing this black shirt and saying the same stuff in front of the camera wearing a white shirt can change the ad performance.
Yes, it can.
So how can I explain that? Is human behavior, right? So, and what is going to tell me what works, what not works? At the end of the day, the numbers.
Yes,
right?
for sure.
So we're going to put out these ads. Let's see what the market is going to decide. And what works, we replicate. And I think for you is the same, right? So you have the painters, you know which one is good, which one can do things better.
Yeah, of course.
But the numbers actually will tell you from the operational side which one works, which one doesn't work.
For sure.
I imagine that's how it works in your perspective.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And then, like I said, from there, there are situations where, you'll have grace for someone or whatever, compassion, et cetera. But at least you can understand and not be like regretful. Because I think if you don't understand the numbers, you're going to blame things that aren't necessarily the culprit. And then, like I said, if I had a painter who is, my target profit's a certain percentage, he was quite a bit lower than that. But everything else about this person was excellent. And I'm like, again, am I fine with having a lower profit percentage on this person? Yes, because at the end of the day, like, he's providing an excellent service to our clients. I like working with him. Everyone likes working with him. Like, what message does that send to my crew if I'm like, hey, this guy was at a lower key metric, I'm going to get rid of him? Versus, like I said, in other situations, hey, this person's unprofitable because they're lazy. Hey, this person's unprofitable because they keep messing up jobs and having to go fix mistakes. That's a different situation. So at least I was informed in that decision process.
Yeah, I totally agree. What are the requirements you're looking for when you're hiring a painter?
Yeah, it has changed over time. So currently what I'm looking for is I do want at least some form of experience in painting. For new painters, I'm trying to target about 3 years experience. With that being said, if someone has construction experience or farming experience, we're willing to train them as a helper. And if someone is a very good fit for our company, but not for a painter, like we have like marketing positions available.
Nice.
That can potentially lead to like sales roles. So there are different avenues, but for a painter specifically, our key goal is 3 years painting experience. With that being said, like I said, we will train helpers if they have at least some construction or farming experience. We just want to make sure people are okay working outside before we hire them, and that they're typically okay with ladders, because this is a ladder job.
Is the main requirement, I would say, right?
Yes. You
Definitely
can tell within
not
seconds.
For me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I would have a hard time, but anyways, yeah.
And obviously attitude's huge. Like if you just don't like the person, if they keep making excuses for things, if they're late to the interview, I'm like, it's kind of
it's a red flag.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a tell. Yeah.
I see. So talking about social media a little bit and marketing. So when someone sees a ProWorks painting post, what do you want them to feel first? Is it like about trust? Is it about inspiration, urgency? So what do you have in mind?
Yeah, so full transparency, because we are a franchise, like that is handled by our franchisor.
Right.
That being said, I do have a pretty good idea of what we're going for. Is usually going to be like brand credibility. I think our social media pages, from what I understand, I may be wrong, right? Disclaimer. But from what I understand, we're about building up a brand and building up a reputation, not necessarily about booking directly from these posts.
Right.
So hopefully that answers your question. But we want clients to look us up and feel comfortable with us.
Right.
We don't necessarily want a post to go like, obviously a hyper viral post would be awesome. But because we are a local service business, we're more concerned about trust than anything else.
Yeah, trust is a trust-based kind of like a business, right?
It is, yeah.
So, but also very, very visual.
It is, for sure, yeah.
Right? Because people want to see the transformation, right?
For sure.
And how do you guys, let's say, advertise it? I know you depend on other marketers to do that for you, right? It's not your internal team that does that, but do they request you to provide them material? How does it work?
Yeah, we do provide images and material. Obviously, like, each marketer has their own preferences for how they do things, and I think our team is very good. And obviously, there's things everyone could do better and things that everyone could do worse. So I think there's some aspects that, of course, I have my own biases, but there's also things I would probably recommend that would just be the wrong decision, right? So I won't comment too much on the marketing side, because I think they are good overall.
But what is a bad decision, for example?
I think exactly that, like not focusing as much on the before and afters is my biggest gripe. But I've seen it with like virtually every painting company. I think, like you said, when I'll show clients like my portfolio, I just have the most dramatic transformation first, right? I have that black house that went to white, that white house that went to like blue, like whatever, just something dramatic so clients can see it.
Right.
You know, I try not to do like very simple transformation pictures because those are great for clients, but those aren't going to sell jobs.
Yeah, and I truly believe that the in-person impact is different than the visual impact from a screen.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
So if it was white with some let's say, scratches, and then it's still white, but totally flat and beautiful, maybe through the iPad, for example, you cannot impact a client during the sales pitch.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Like you said, if it was white and became black, okay, it's very impactful and it's more visual appealing, right?
And one thing I will say, just to clarify, because I think it sounds like I'm not happy with our marketing team has been getting like significantly better over time. And we recently switched and they have been awesome. But with that being said, it's, I'm kind of still biased because I've been in the industry 9 years. So I remember how things were when I started and, I still can have some beef with that. But like the last year or two, it's been awesome.
Amazing.
I think you've seen it. It's, similar to probably.
No, I see you guys do a great job, honestly.
For sure.
When I see you guys, it's like the entire corporation. So it's ProWorks at painting in general, right?
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. I think you just made a perfect point. It's corporate where it has to appeal to people all across Canada. It doesn't just have to appeal to my local Langley. Because obviously, if it was local and I would love to work with you. It'd be awesome. I think I've seen a lot of marketers. I think you have the best content and just work ethic that I've seen. So because you're so like good at your craft. So I think you would make like an excellent local ad. But with our corporate, it has to be like scalable to Canada.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right. So, which makes sense. I understand that.
Yeah. It's basically, imagine that at every area you have a different ICP,
ideal
customer profile.
Yeah.
And you need to create something that it fits everybody, right?
Yeah.
That is impactful to everybody. So for sure you have to be more generic sometimes. So
definitely.
And it is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm. You hit the nail on the head. We have snipes when we do door to door, which would be, for example, like we knock, hey, do you need painting? No, hey, no worries. We just wanted to mention like we can paint stucco. Have you ever considered changing the color of your house? Those are called snipes. Those are just one-off lines that you throw in with a door knock, if it makes sense. Sometimes you just walk away and say thank you. But those snipes are different per area. In Langley, our snipe is about trim. In Morgan Creek, our snipe is about stucco or hardy board. You target different things depending on the area.
Yeah.
You cannot do that when you have like a global area.
No, you cannot.
For obvious reasons. For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
It has to be very broad. So
yeah, it has to be broad because you're actually doing branding.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
So and it's really funny what you said because when you laser target an area, you're coming with an offer.
Yes.
So that's key in marketing, right? So when I come to you and say, hey, do you want to do digital marketing? Is one thing. But if I say, hey, do you want to have 10 posts on your social media per month for X amount of money? It becomes an offer, right? And then I can talk about the benefits and everything.
Yeah, totally. It's not abstract anymore. It's just, exactly, yes or no.
And it definitely increases your chances to convert because you're coming with an offer like a product or a service that it can fit my needs or not, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a generic.
For sure. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah?
100%.
Yeah. So what is your main customer acquisition channel nowadays?
It depends. I think referral and repeat clients are huge for us, just because we have started to build up a steady base of like residential and commercial projects. That's big in terms of direct, like our current acquisition. Door to door still works very well for us because we are an industry where we can be at the door and clients will like just be like, yeah, I do need painting or I don't. Like it's pretty yes
Simple.
Or no.
Yeah.
Like I said before with the snipe, sometimes you point something out. But for the most part, people know or they don't know. Versus like with some marketing forms, it's kind of abstract. Like we don't do any like on the phone cold calling. That does not work for painting, at least as far as I found. That doesn't work. And then Google, we do it. It's more of a branding play, but we do get some work from Google. But I would say most of it's door to door. A lot of it is send out flyers, and then just miscellaneous from there. But the majority of our work is repeat and referral. Yeah.
Fantastic. Something that I always ask myself how door-to-door works during like a winter.
Yeah.
Does the conversions drop? Like how does it
No,
work?
they actually go up. That's what I
Really?
found. Yeah.
Okay, guys, that's
So,
important
yeah.
information.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, I hope my competitors aren't watching this, but yeah, no, I love door to door in like January. You know, it's
Wow.
awesome. Yeah. It's just like it gets you started. It's like, dude, like I'm here. And I think clients respect it. Yeah.
Do you know what? I know maybe that's my theory.
Yeah.
That's maybe why the conversions are better in January, because people are stuck at home maybe.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have a lot to do outside.
Yeah.
And the
I think
color
so.
of their
Yeah.
walls, for example, end up like making them bored, maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They start seeing small details and they want someone to fix it. What do you think? The main reason
I think so.
the conversions are good in January.
I think with painting and with a lot of trades, winter is very slow for us. Like it's very rare for us to be working in December. That's what I'll say. We try to have commercial, or like we do Christmas lights as well. So those services will help us stay busy. But for the most part, we do have a little bit of a break. And I think clients in general like want to take that time off. So usually, here's what we find. We find early season, like January, February, is excellent for like generating leads. Not the highest bookings on those leads, but throughout time, like those pendings turn into jobs.
Small jobs.
We book those work over time.
And then knocking doors is the best kind of channel acquisition.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Got it.
When you switch to summer, you still want to be knocking doors, of course. But at that point, our primary source of work comes from online, like people looking up like, hey, I need to get my painting done before it's too late. It's like a lot of like, oh shoot, like I need to paint my fascia. So it's those sorts of searches are very popular. Referral, because you are painting now. And then, hey, I just painted my mom's house. Her friend comes over, her mom, or she needs her fascia painted as well. Hey, okay, yeah, call Jonah. So that stuff happens as well during the summer. And then again, just like repeat work is very common in the summer, because repeat isn't, I don't know what it is, but I find with repeat clients, like it isn't as urgent because they've already worked with you. Like they know that they'll like get a job with you is my assumption. Yeah. They're like, hey, we'll just call Jonah. And it's whenever it's they're ready for that.
And it comes organically, right?
It does, yeah.
Because you did a good job.
For sure.
The first impression was good, so they come back.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you have a indicator or percentage of your clients who come back? Do you have an idea how many of them come back?
Not with painting, because painting, you don't do it very often. I would say with Christmas lights, we had like a 95% repeat rate, which is pretty good. So, but I would have had 100%, and I'm, there's one lady who was an awesome client, but she moved away, so she didn't use us again. But I was like so upset because I wanted a 100% repeat rate.
Right.
But yeah, it was.
Got it.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
That's quite interesting. Yeah. Is the concept called LTV, lifetime value?
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you pay for the customer acquisition at once, the first contact, the first time they see you.
Yeah.
And then when they come back, you do not have any costs related to customer acquisition. Yeah. Right? Do you have any idea how much is your customer acquisition costs nowadays?
Yeah, it's gone up significantly. I think this year will be the most expensive acquisition cost I've ever had, just because the market's very rough right now. And we're doing what it takes. We aren't going to make excuses, but it does make it more expensive. I would say this year will probably be close to 20%, which is very high for us. Yeah. So possibly more. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's 20% this year.
Wow,
yeah,
that's a lot.
Pretty insane. Yeah,
maybe more competition.
Yeah, I think competition's one thing. I think the general market right now is stressed about their money, and with painting, trim jobs will always need to be done. Like you can preserve wood by painting it outside, but the more luxury jobs, which I would consider projects a client could do themselves, those are very difficult to book this year.
I see.
That would be an interior, a fence, those types of projects where they can technically do it themselves. You're not now only competing against other painting companies, you're now also competing against the client's time value.
I see. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Something good I can tell about your business. AI cannot take your job.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So long term, I think it's a kind of like industry. More houses we see like developers building more houses in BC, which is very positive, right? Demand is going to grow for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and AI cannot take your job.
Yeah, I honestly think AI is going to help our job.
Why?
And what I mean by that is, like you said earlier, you alluded to visual, like the visual side of painting. What I found this year that has helped us book projects is a lot of times I would go to a client's house and they would always make the same joke, like, hey, here's my ChatGPT render. And I'm like, oh, okay. And, at first I'm like, whatever. But now I'm looking at it, they're already attached to painting their house now because they've seen what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not something that was there before. So I got like ChatGPT Plus because I'm like, I'm going to use this
Let
now.
me double check it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But, I use it. I'm like, hey, like, just so you know, like you want to paint your house blue or green, you don't have an idea. Like, let me just generate 2 images, show you a general idea, right? Disclaimer, it's not going to look exactly the same. But then that helps clients visualize it because now it's not abstract again.
Wow,
Now it's not just, hey, we're going to paint our house and it's $5,000. It's, hey, if I pay $5,000, this is what my house is going to look like. That is amazing.
It's
it
more
just
impactful.
changes. It does. It changes the game.
How often do you use it in your sales pitch?
I use it quite often with interior work because, again, interior work's very hard to book right now.
Okay.
I try to do whatever it takes to book those jobs. Yeah.
And why ProWorks Painting don't invest in lead magnet so people can start uploading their internal photos of their house online, see how it looks, and then get a quote?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I haven't thought about that directly. We do have an internal software which does a lot for us, like an internal CRM, which is like amazing. Like it's best of class. But with that being said, because it is our own software, it's a bit slower to get some of those specific features. It's just very good for like organization, client relations, like everything that you need is on there.
The entire ecosystem is there.
Even
right?
like payroll, like it goes anywhere from like the lead generation, all the way to like final payment and payout.
Wow.
It's the full works. So. But with that being said, I think because it is internal, we kind of have to prioritize what we cannot lose out on versus like what we can, which in this case, like AI generation, I think most clients will just look up ChatGPT.
The reason I'm giving you this idea, that's a real story.
Yeah.
So we worked with an HVAC company,
Okay.
you know better than me, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And we ended up creating a calculator because we have developers internally that would compare how much would it cost monthly heating up my house during winter using a electric baseboard versus a modern heat pump.
Oh, interesting.
And it was working as a lead magnet. It was a marketing strategy, right? And we had huge visibility. Providing it to users online. And we developed it internally. So, and I truly believe that it's feasible to create something for ProWorks Painting that people can upload a photo of their living room, for example, automatically generate a result, how it looked like, and then they will receive a quote. So that's a marketing strategy that we use internally. We prove it to work and generated like amazing results, right? Keep that in mind.
I like that. Yeah, I'll give you a commission if we do it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it worked really well because at the end of the day, what the customers are expecting is interaction.
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
So one, trust is extremely important. I think you guys are doing a good job. But if you can show them the result before they buy from you, so they can have the experience, so conversion rates tend to go over the roof.
I like that. Yeah,
is a thing to keep in mind. And this HVAC company, for example, when the client could see, hey, I'm going to save $200 per month. And plus, with a heat pump, I will also have AC during summer.
Yes.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Okay.
Let me request a quote, right?
Yeah.
So you show the advantages up front and usually have good conversions.
For sure. You know what? It's funny. I drive a Tesla, and the reason I drive that car is I did work for an electrician, and I'd always had this assumption that like electric cars were super expensive. And he drove like, he had 2 Teslas or whatever. And I was asking him like, what are the numbers? Like, you're an electrician, like how much does this cost? And he was actually showing me like, here's my electrical bill.
Right.
Here's how much I used on my Tesla. It was like, $20 a month or whatever. And he drives as much as I do. I drive a ton. I
drive a lot, I imagine.
Yeah, I've driven like 80,000 kilometers in like 2.5 years. So like I drive a lot, right? So that's most of my job. And he was like, it was like $30 a month or whatever. And then I was looking, I'm like, okay, how much did I pay in gas based on that driving time? It's like, dude, my Tesla pays for itself. So it just made sense.
It pays
Obviously,
back.
There's insurance. It's not a pure cost saving, but I also get like the value of the car at the end of the road when I sell it. So I'm like, okay, it effectively is an investment. It's not necessarily a
100%.
liability
Yeah.
because of how much I drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So numbers
100%.
don't lie.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
They don't lie.
For sure.
I get it. Yeah.
So, yeah. I
That's
like,
a good
I like
point, Jonah.
numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
To the detriment of my family. I love numbers. So, yeah.
Okay. What is the biggest social media mistake local service business make nowadays from your perspective?
A very, very, very common mistake I see made is two things. Posting videos of improper safety is huge. I've seen so many companies where they'll be on a roof like, hey, look at us painting this roof. And I'm like, dude, where's your harness? Like, you're like 3 stories up. Like, why do you not have a harness on? Like, you were literally posting this for the world to see. Like, you're showing every client that you are not responsible. So that's number one, which I personally, I love it because I'm like, hey, that's more work for me because these clients are going to like despise this client. But I also like, I hate it because those painters are like in danger. The other mistake I see very common is like just straight up sloppy work. Like you'll see painting contractors doing things that are so stupid. I'm like, we are top of market for quality. We are the highest rated company in our area. But with that being said, there are other good companies. Like I'm not going to lie and say we're the only company that does a good job. But I'll see companies I know on average do pretty good work and they'll post a video of like someone cutting and like getting paint on a baseboard. And I'm like, theoretically, maybe that painter is going to paint the baseboard after, but the client doesn't know that. If you see a 5-second clip of someone painting a wall, assume that you're only painting that wall. You don't just I will because I'm a painting contractor, but most people aren't going to automatically assume, hey, that really bad cut line on that baseboard is going to get covered up after. They're going to be like, dude, why is that guy so sloppy? Mm-hmm. So that's a really common mistake I see made. And it's just, again, I love it when it happens because it makes it easier for me to book work. So I can be like, oh yeah, like, hey, I love this company. Like, have you seen their social media? Like, I think they have it. Oh, wait, what's this? Just accidentally pull it up with the client. So yeah,
I see. No, I agree.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Like, they ended up helping you, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay. How do you see the future? What are you expecting for 2026?
Yeah, for what avenue? Like for
first,
painting?
let's start with your book, right? So you have recently launched your book.
Yeah.
What are your expectations?
Okay, I am very, very dedicated to this project. This is where my free cash flow is going to go. I am going to try to make like an actual trailer for the book because of my background in acting. Wow. Like I know people who can do like professional voiceover, right? My own sister like did voiceover for like pretty high up. Cool. So there's people I know who can like do voiceover for like a trailer, and I'm gonna experiment with different avenues. And my ambition is, this is like crazy, but I am like kind of naive in this way. I want to make this into like an animated series. Wow. So I'm gonna try to make like a really high budget trailer, put that into like a GoFundMe or whatever it is, Kickstarter, and just say like, hey, like let's fund a pilot. And it is a really easy to sell concept, where I want to like show this trailer of like, the demigods getting ready, like, Marcus, the main character, arguing with his mom Athena about like the absolute necessity to like solve this succession issue immediately. Like I want to have these like really epic moments and then try to do a GoFundMe to like fund a pilot episode, like professional. Like I don't want this to be like AI generated for the actual show itself. Okay. I'll probably use AI for the trailer because, I have to for like a bunch of reasons. Okay. Yeah, but like I'd like to just actually have like an animated pilot for the series because I think it's a story worth telling. So that's my goal with the book this year.
I'm more and more curious about this book.
Dude, you have to like, I will
probably finish it this weekend.
It is so, every single person who's read this has like just loved it. And it's not me being arrogant because I'm not the best writer. There are going to be grammar, I promise you, there will be grammar mistakes that you're like, oh, this guy isn't the best editor. But the actual concept is so insane.
The story is the beauty.
Yeah, the story is so good. Right? Yeah, it's so good. So,
I'm really curious.
Yeah, it's so good.
I tried to buy mine yesterday, so I cannot wait for the upcoming release. Yeah. So you please let me know. I will put the link of this Amazon book on the description below. Yes. So you guys keep checking it every day to see if it's available or not.
It will be available on, I think, Monday the 16th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, okay. Monday the 16th.
By the time we post this episode, that's my promise. It's going to be there.
Yeah, deal, sounds good. Right? Sounds good. Yeah.
So, and then I will make a post
Yeah, awesome.
on our channel.
Yeah.
With my perspective about the book.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Fair?
And be critical. I love feedback. Like,
Awesome.
you know,
Me too.
yeah.
Me
Without
too.
feedback, you're just like, what are you doing? You know,
Okay.
so
I'm quite curious.
there will be no critical feedback. But
All right,
no,
that's
I know
the
there.
first fantasy book that I'm
Yeah.
gonna read in the last let's say 5 years. I think
Yeah.
so.
I'm so excited to hear what you think.
Right?
Yeah.
I hope it's gonna blow up my mind, and I'm more than happy to support your new project.
Yes, thank
right?
you.
So
Yeah.
good to know. If you guys
Sweet.
are watching this podcast episode and you wanna invest on Jonah's book, please let him know.
Yeah,
What is the best
I'm gonna-
way to contact you, by the way?
Probably, I mean, there's multiple ways. My phone number is pretty widely available just because I am in a local service business. So for clients, I just say, like, call me at like 778-994-4260.
There we go.
Now with the book, I would just like DM me on Instagram, you know?
How people can find you on Instagram?
Just look up Jonah Stark.
Jonah
And,
Stark.
Yeah, you can tag me in a post. But yeah,
Good.
Jonah Stark is my name.
Now, ProWorks Painting. So
Yeah.
what are your expectations for 2026?
Yeah, I have pretty ambitious expectations. Now, I'm having my wife, please don't hate me in the comments. My wife is having a baby in June.
Congratulations.
And that is like our peak season. So what I've done this year is I've hired a production manager.
All right.
And I've also hired someone who's like managing my door-to-door team this year.
Great.
Carl is the
sales
door-to-door
team.
guy. Yeah, exactly. The sales team. I'm training him currently to do quotes so that next year he can like full on join as a salesman. But this year he's going to be able to do quotes in my absence because my wife will have a planned C-section.
You're right.
I won't be able to work as much during like June and July as I normally would. So I'm just trying to set myself up to have success this year. Like, we want to do a little bit more revenue than last year. This is not a serious growth year. We are not trying to target a 50% growth this year, but we want to make sure that our margin is the same, if not better, and that we set ourselves up for success in future years. Those are our two number one priorities
The goals.
right now. Yeah. Like, we want to make sure that we're in a place where we don't take a huge step back and have to play catch up. We want to scale the business to a point where like we can make sure that my painters have work year round. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Awesome.
Last question. So, by the way, I could stay here
Yeah.
talking to you for many hours.
Yeah, I could
But
too.
I know
It's
your
fun.
time
Yeah.
is limited. I love talking about business, and now I'm so curious about your book as well. What does ROI, return on investment mindset, mean to you personally speaking?
Yeah, I think there's different ways of looking at it. I love investing in myself. Like, I love reading. I love just doing different things that don't have an immediate return because you never know when those are going to come in handy later. I think as a husband, I've gotten a lot better. As a father, I think I'm a good father now. You know, as a son, like, I think learning things, even if they don't directly result in income, are still like super beneficial. And on the income side, like last year, for example, I had a situation where what I had learned from like reading like the J.P. Morgan family biography, you know, the House of Morgan, or like reading like Vanderbilt, like just random books from the past give you insight that you don't know when you're going to draw upon. And you never know when those are going to come in handy, but they do come in handy. Just having that perspective of history. So
It shapes your
I
mindset.
like reading a lot for return on, I'm assuming return on investment could involve like personal growth, but that's my view on that is, you know, discipline now, you never know when that's going to pay off.
100%.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's it. And then obviously for financial, like, you want to make sure that you're being conservative, right? So
Of course, it's
taking
also
care of
important.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
but it's not everything.
Yes, that's not everything, for sure. Yeah, you know, the happiest I've ever been is like with my wife and my son. You know, it's knowing like if you have the basic needs met, like at that point, money's good, but that's not really what matters, you know?
Yeah.
I don't get happy for like buying anything specific. I get happy when I like play with my son and have time.
100%.
So that's my view on like return on investment, I guess.
Agreed. Fantastic. Family is growing. Book is gonna be back on Amazon.
Yes.
Business-wise,
Yeah.
you're doing great. So
Yeah,
thank you
it's-
again for your time. Thank you for coming over.
Awesome.
And I hope to have you here back as
Yeah,
soon
I'd
this
love to.
book
Yeah.
becomes a
Maybe when I'm
success,
trying to fund the Kickstarter.
right?
Yeah, we'll see.
I think that's just the beginning of like a very successful story.
Yeah,
I'll
I
be
think
here
so.
supporting
Yeah.
you, and thank you so much for coming over.
Sweet. Thanks, Marilla. It
Right,
was awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Beautiful.
awesome.